That's my brother, Ryle.
The first official customer?
Well, you'd have to buy something to be considered a customer. Right now, you're just loitering.
Guys.
It's like knowing, like connecting with your own power album, I think, for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Safe and respectful for all. So yeah, I guess that's the role of intimacy coordination. But yeah, when I think of my
Blake Lively thought she had Justin Baldoni exactly where she wanted him. The judges were granting her discovery motions left and right. The media was calling her brave for speaking out, and it looked like she was absolutely dominating this legal battle. But here's what Blake didn't see coming. While she was celebrating these small victories, a mysterious PR consultant named Jed Wallace was quietly building a legal bomb that's about to blow up her entire case. And the most shocking part?
And then there's the issue of the New York Times article that first broke the news of Blake's lawsuit. Justin's team has alleged that the article was part of a coordinated effort.
Blake handed him all the ammunition he needed to destroy her. If you want to see how one tactical mistake can unravel a seemingly perfect lawsuit, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's dive into this legal disaster. Every legal expert watching this case is asking the same question. How did Blake Lively, with all her high-powered attorneys and media support, walk straight into a trap that could cost her everything? The answer lies in something most people don't understand about the legal system. Winning discovery motions doesn't mean you're winning your case.
There's no way that this is a legal filing. Like, this is just a roast session from Charles Babcock.
In fact, judges in employment and harassment cases almost always grant discovery requests because they don't want to appear like they're blocking a potential victim from proving their case. Blake's been celebrating these procedural victories while completely missing the fact that her case has fundamental problems that could destroy everything. The man exposing these problems isn't Justin Baldoni or some Hollywood executive, it's Jed Wallace, a Texas-based crisis management consultant who most people had never heard of until Blake dragged him into this mess.
I promise you, I've been trying to think of other things to talk about, but another day, another filing. And this actually has to do with one.
Wallace wasn't even part of the original It Ends With Us production. He's not Blake's employer, he's not a Hollywood mogul, and he has no personal stake in this film. He's just a PR consultant who got hired to do a job. But his legal team is proving to be Blake's absolute worst nightmare. What makes Wallace so dangerous isn't that he's fighting dirty or using celebrity tactics. It's the opposite. His lawyers are using what legal insiders are calling cold legal precision.
I got a text. Okay, we got an order.
They're going line by line through Blake's complaint, allegation by allegation, and they're systematically dismantling every single claim she's made. They're not relying on theatrics or media spin. They're using pure legal strategy, and it's devastatingly effective. The first major problem Wallace identified is something called the defamation exception. Blake is calling her case retaliation and harassment, but Wallace's team argues that when you strip away all the legal jargon,
Jed Wallace has entered the chat room. For those that don't know, Jed is the alleged IT mastermind behind the alleged smear campaign.
this is really a defamation case, disguised as an employment lawsuit. Here's why that matters. New York law has a strict rule that if your case is fundamentally about harm to your reputation, it belongs in defamation court, not employment court. And defamation cases have much stricter rules, shorter deadlines, higher proof standards, and for public figures like Blake, an almost impossible requirement to prove actual malice.
Y'all heard, there's a new lawsuit. Blake Lively has been sued again.
Blake's lawyers tried to respond to this argument in what should have been the most important part of their legal brief. Instead, they devoted exactly 2 paragraphs in a 31-page document to addressing the defamation exception. Wallace's team had a field day with this, writing that her 2-paragraph attempt in a 31-page brief to overcome the defamation exception is hardly a response at all. In legal terms, that's basically calling her argument pathetic. When your opponent is mocking your legal arguments in court filings, you know you're in serious trouble.
What a week, because more excerpts from Blake Lively's transcript have just dropped. I'm still getting over the...
But the defamation problem is just the beginning. Blake made an even bigger mistake when she decided to forum shop between different states to find the most favorable court. She originally filed her complaint in California, then moved to New York, trying to use different states' laws to her advantage. This seemed clever at first. New York's subpoena rules allowed her to secretly gather evidence without notifying the targets, something California law wouldn't have permitted. This is exactly how she got access to private text messages.
Sure is a busy day for the docket in this case. So Jed Wallace sought a protective
and phone records that became central to her case. The problem is that this forum shopping created a jurisdictional nightmare that's now destroying her case. Blake tried to use California's Fair Employment and Housing Act as the legal foundation for her claims, but there's one fatal flaw. California employment law doesn't apply to people who don't live in California, weren't working in California, and where the alleged conduct didn't happen in California. Blake has already admitted that the harassment she's complaining about happened in New Jersey, not California. She filed her lawsuit in New York.
Guys, Jed Wallace might get his $7 million from Blake. We now have Jed Wallace's declaration under oath, and it is very...
Not California. So why is she trying to use California law? Wallace's team pounced on this contradiction like legal predators. They pointed out that Blake's own admissions make her use of California law fatal. Not just fatal to her case against Wallace, but potentially fatal to her entire lawsuit against everyone. When you're trying to use the wrong state's law in the wrong court for conduct that happened in a third state, you've created exactly the kind of jurisdictional mess that judges hate dealing with.
Y'all, let's get fun now. This is fun. This is a big development. Blake Lively got sued by...
Blake's legal team tried to salvage this disaster by arguing that because some of the decision-making happened in California, California law should still apply. They claimed that since Wayfarer is California-based, and their lawyers are California-based, and they paid Wallace's invoices, that somehow makes California law relevant. But Wallace's reply brief tore this argument apart. They pointed out that none of this connects Wallace himself to California. His
Lively claims that she never defamed him, but Jed is arguing that the document that she provided
alleged conduct, the media strategy, the social media campaigns, all of it, happened outside California. Even if someone in California made bad decisions, Blake hasn't shown that Wallace knew about it or participated for retaliatory reasons. This brings us to perhaps the most bizarre aspect of Blake's case, her theory of retaliation. She's claiming that Wallace and others launched a smear campaign against her, not because she had already spoken up publicly, but to silence her.
Well, he's making lots of calls this afternoon because Judge Lyman says that street relations and Jed Wallace...
before she ever did. According to Blake, they were trying to destroy her credibility in advance, just in case she decided to go public with harassment allegations later. Think about how strange that is. She's arguing that people retaliated against her for something she hadn't done yet, for accusations she hadn't made yet, for a story she hadn't told yet. Wallace's lawyers point out the obvious legal problem with this theory. That's not how retaliation works.
Bro! Blake Lively just had a loss in court, and one of the biggest players in her supposed...
Retaliation requires actual protected activity and actual adverse employment actions. You can't retaliate against someone for something they might do in the future. Blake's theory is based on speculation and hypotheticals, not legal reality. And when pressed for specific evidence, Blake's own testimony under oath revealed that she couldn't name a single article or statement that Wallace published that actually harmed her. For someone claiming that a near-daily media blitz destroyed her reputation...
So Lively's arguments are that Jed Wallace's entire client base from 2023 to now would be relevant to
Admitting you can't identify even one harmful statement is legally devastating. But perhaps the most damaging evidence against Blake comes from her own actions after the alleged harassment occurred. Here's what doesn't make sense. If Blake was truly being harassed and intimidated by Justin Baldoni and his team, why did she then demand more involvement in the film? After supposedly suffering harassment, she wanted more creative control, more input on the project, more access to the very people she claims were harassing her.
Blake Lively has been sued again, and honestly, I would only expect more lawsuits to come her way. But the one I'm talking about today is filed.
This is the opposite of how harassment victims typically behave. Most people who are being harassed want to get away from their harassers, not get closer to them. This contradictory behavior raises uncomfortable questions about Blake's true motivations. Was this really about harassment, or was this about gaining leverage and control over the film? Did Blake use harassment allegations as bargaining chips to get what she wanted professionally? Wallace's legal team frames this as reputational gamesmanship, not retaliation.
Okay, so if you thought you were having a bad day today, I would like to personally assure you that it is exponentially better than Blake Lively.
And they're giving the judge plenty of evidence to support that interpretation. The most devastating part of Wallace's strategy is that he's not just defending himself. He's creating a blueprint that other defendants can use to destroy Blake's case against them too. Every argument he's making about jurisdiction, about the defamation exception, about the failure of Blake's retaliation theory, applies equally to Wayfarer Studios and the other defendants. If Wallace succeeds in getting dismissed,
we have a tiny bit more information about what happened at Lively's deposition.
It creates a domino effect that could topple Blake's entire lawsuit. Meanwhile, Wallace isn't just playing defense. He's filed his own $7 million defamation lawsuit against Blake in Texas, claiming that her accusations have destroyed his reputation and cost him millions in lost business. Blake tried to get that case dismissed by arguing that Texas courts don't have jurisdiction over her, but the judge denied her motion. Now she's facing the nightmare scenario of fighting legal battles in multiple states while her primary case in New York falls apart.
Well, I guess it never ends because Blake Lively has just been sued again this morning. This time by a man named...
The irony is breathtaking. Blake thought she was being clever by forum shopping between different states to find the most advantageous courts and laws. Instead, she created a jurisdictional maze that's now trapping her. She wanted to use New York's favorable subpoena rules, California's employment laws, and avoid the stricter requirements that would have applied if she'd stayed in one jurisdiction. But this legal shopping spree created contradictions and weaknesses that skilled attorneys like Wallace's team are now exploiting with surgical precision.
Summary of Jed Wallace's response to Blake Lively's motion to dismiss. I just did a much longer video, but
Legal experts watching this case are calling it a masterclass in how not to handle multi-jurisdictional litigation. Blake's team made almost every mistake possible. They used the wrong state's law, filed in the wrong court, made claims they couldn't support with evidence, and created a retaliation theory that doesn't fit the legal definition of retaliation. Then, when challenged on these fundamental problems, they responded with 2 paragraphs instead of a real legal argument.
we have an order transferring in the Blake Lively case. This is the sourced intelligence discovered dispute over...
Wallace's motion to dismiss isn't just poking holes in Blake's case. It's revealing that there might not be a real case underneath all the media attention and public sympathy. His lawyers are telling the judge that Blake's claims are nothing but defamation in disguise. And since she can't even point to a defamatory statement he made, there's nothing left to her case against him. But the implications go far beyond just Wallace. If a judge agrees that Blake's case is really defamation disguised as employment law,
Don't do it, Jed. Hey everyone, I'm specifically talking to you, Jed Wallace, the crisis communications manager that was brought on by Justin Baldoni.
It doesn't just destroy her claims against Wallace, it potentially destroys her claims against everyone. If her retaliation theory doesn't hold up legally, if her use of California law is fatal, if her forum shopping created insurmountable jurisdictional problems, then Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios can use the exact same arguments to get themselves dismissed too. Blake walked into court thinking she had the perfect case. She had sympathetic facts, media support, and what looked like clear evidence of wrongdoing.
Well, I just really love romance, and I love it as an audience member, and I love it in my real.
But she and her legal team apparently forgot that in court, how you present your case legally matters just as much as what actually happened. You can have the most compelling story in the world, but if you file it under the wrong laws in the wrong court with the wrong legal theories, you're going to lose. The most shocking part of this entire legal disaster is that Blake created most of these problems herself. Her decision to forum shop created the jurisdictional nightmares. Her choice to use California law for non-California conduct.
Hey everybody, happy Thursday afternoon to you, September 4th, 2025. Got all your stories for your rush hour ride home.
Created the fatal legal contradictions. Her failure to properly respond to the defamation exception argument created the appearance that she has no real answer to Wallace's strongest point. Her own testimony undermined her claims about harm and retaliation. Jed Wallace didn't need to destroy Blake Lively's case. She handed him a case that was already self-destructing, and his lawyers are just methodically documenting all the ways it fails to meet basic legal standards.
We're having more discovery disputes, and this is getting juicy. Jed Wallace's lawyers just filed this letter.
What looked like Blake's moment of triumph is turning into a cautionary tale about what happens when media strategy replaces legal strategy. When public relations takes priority over legal requirements, and when you assume that public sympathy can overcome fundamental legal deficiencies. The judge hasn't ruled on Wallace's motion to dismiss yet, but legal observers are already predicting the outcome. When one side responds to detailed legal arguments with 2 paragraphs, when they're using the wrong state's law for conduct that happened elsewhere.
Blake Lively's legal headaches are getting worse. The actress is now being sued by a crisis PR firm for defamation.
When their retaliation theory is based on hypothetical future actions rather than actual past conduct, the writing is on the wall. Blake Lively thought she was playing chess, but she was actually playing checkers while her opponents were studying the rulebook. And now that careful study of legal procedure and jurisdictional requirements is about to checkmate her entire case. The woman who wanted to be seen as a victim, taking on powerful Hollywood interests instead, looks like someone who tried to manipulate the legal system.
I'll take a shower. That might seem silly, but going outside?
And got caught in her own trap. This case isn't over yet, but the foundations of Blake's lawsuit are crumbling. And the man responsible for exposing these cracks isn't a Hollywood power player or a celebrity lawyer. It's a Texas PR consultant who simply decided to fight back with the law instead of public relations. Sometimes the most devastating weapon in a legal battle isn't media attention or public sympathy. It's just knowing how to read a rule book.